Hey, what's going on everyone? In this video, I'm doing a review of a Nexus 10 case that I actually got on eBay for $16 Canadian, and that includes shipping charges, so it's really cheap. So before I continue, I want to actually prove I'm running a Nexus 10, just in case anyone has any doubts about tablet. And there you can see Nexus 10, okay? So basically it has a sleep function and a 360 rotation, but let's get into like the outer design. From the outside, it looks pretty nice, very sleek looking, very like, I don't know, business type if you would prefer to say. It's not too thick around the tablet itself. Here's a tablet. You'll notice that the bottom casing is a little bit thicker. That's because there's a swivel. It's actually kind of a separate piece. You guys can kind of see there. That's where it rotates on. As for the back, you do have a hole for the rear camera. The rear camera is pretty bad on this tablet, which, well, like most tablets, but it's still there. And my desk is really dusty, so that's why the case is getting really dirty. At this corner here, or edge rather, you have a little hole for a stylus pen if you want to buy one separately. And of course, to kind of make the tablet case secure and closed, you have to use this material to close it up. Oops, there we go. Okay, so it won't open. But let's open it up, show the interior design. So you just saw that the tablet actually woke up. That's the sleep feature I was telling you guys about. And you open it back up, and there it wakes up. In terms of spacing, around the edges you got your, I think this is a micro HDMI port. Everything is accessible. Everything that you need to be accessible is accessible. Micro USB port, headphone jack. At the bottom, you still have access to the dock connector, I suppose, and of course the volume buttons and the power button. You even got this little mesh on each side for the speaker grills because they're up facing, so sound isn't a problem on this thing either. I have tested it. Sound travels just fine through the mesh. The LED notification light, it actually has like a little panel right there, an opening. So your LED notifications are still visible, easily visible. And of course the front-facing cam also has its own spacing, so that's also like not obstructed. In terms of 360 rotation, you know, it's okay. It does what it's supposed to, 360 rotation. In terms of standing up, now this is a little bit of a problem. I'll show you guys. So right now this is landscape mode. So it sits on the, you know, closest notch possible. Sits just fine. Middle, just fine, no problem. The bottom, it doesn't even rest at all. It just kind of collapses on its own weight. Now if you were to turn it to portrait mode, it has a similar problem but for the opposite notch. I'll show you. So on the furthest notch, it rests just fine. Middle is even better. You know, this is pretty good. However, on the closest notch, it tends to start falling over because of its own weight. So for some people that might be a deal breaker. To be honest, those are the most extreme angles. I personally never use those angles. I tend to use the middle because it's just perfect. But I just wanted to make sure you guys are aware of that. Okay, so before I wrap up this review, I do want to show you guys that none of the screen itself is obstructed. Okay, so you can see everything is clearly visible, even the on-screen buttons. Notification isn't covered at all. Along the edges, it's great. So it doesn't obstruct anything at all. It's pretty well designed. So if I had to give this case a rating, I would give it a 4 out of 5. Now, even though it looks sleek and it's not too thick, it's a pretty decent thickness, but it's quite hard. It provides a decent amount of protection. However, it does have its flaws. The one thing I don't like about the locking mechanism is just a piece of material, which feels like it's kind of flimsy. I never was a fan of it. It's not to say that this will actually tear off and break one day, but I've always preferred that if it had some sort of latch here that went around and it would just kind of stick to here through some magnets. So instead of using this thing, which is kind of annoying to wrap around, it would have just been nicer and easier to have a magnet that just kind of went around and just close it like that. The other problem is, as I demonstrated, landscape and portrait mode have their individual flaws. You know, you can see here in landscape mode, it doesn't sit on that notch. And then obviously, as I demonstrated for you guys, portrait mode doesn't even rest there at all. But it's still, personally, I think for that price, it was the best one I could find. In fact, what I'll do is I'll put a link to the seller's page for this case in the video description below in case you guys are interested in it. So 4 out of 5, that's my score, and that's pretty much it. If you found this video useful, check out my website in the description below. Hit the like button, it does help. Subscribe, and thanks for watching.